On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected.
Thank you to all our amazing channel members for your generous support.
Eddie Van Halen, one of the most influential guitarists in rock history, passed away on October 6, 2020, at the age of 65 after a long battle with throat cancer. His death was natural, but deeply symbolic of the fragility that lies beneath artistic brilliance. Van Halen's passing reflected the physical toll of decades of touring, lifestyle excess, and creative intensity that defined the rock era he helped shape. For a man whose electrifying energy seemed boundless, his death struck a generational chord, reminding fans that even icons of seemingly endless vitality are mortal. Eddie's life embodied the exuberant spirit of late 20th century rock culture, an era of experimentation, virtuosity, and rebellion. His innovative playing style, especially his mastery of tapping, revolutionized the electric guitar and redefined the sound of modern rock. When he died, the music world collectively mourned not just the loss of a musician, but of an era that celebrated raw creativity and individualism. His passing came at a time when rock was no longer the dominant cultural force it once was, making his death feel like the closing of a monumental chapter in popular music history. The immediate consequences of his death were felt across generations of artists and fans. Tributes poured in from musicians spanning genres, from Brian May to Billie Eilish, each acknowledging how Van Halen's innovation transcended musical boundaries. Sales of Van Halen's albums surged, and his performances were reshared worldwide, illustrating how death can renew collective appreciation for a legend's life work. His son, Wolfgang Van Halen, became the torchbearer of his legacy, ensuring the family's musical heritage continues. Eddie's death amplified his legend rather than diminishing it. In dying, he became not just a virtuoso remembered for technique, but a symbol of artistic evolution and perseverance. His story captures the rock era's tension between self-destruction and transcendence, the notion that creative genius often walks hand in hand with human fragility. In reflecting on his passing, Eddie Van Halen's legacy reveals humanity's ongoing fascination with mortality, power, and memory. We immortalize figures like him through tribute concerts, documentaries, and the eternal replay of their art. Every guitar riff, every song becomes a vessel of remembrance, proof that creativity, once unleashed, can outlive the body that produced it. Eddie's music continues to echo, reminding us that while death silences the artist, it cannot silence the art. Rip Taylor, the exuberant king of confetti, passed away on October 6, 2019, at the age of 88 from natural causes. His death marked the end of a uniquely vibrant chapter in American comedy, a world that once celebrated camp, theatricality, and joyful excess. Taylor's flamboyant style, characterized by explosive energy, sequined costumes, and over-the-top humor, stood as both a product and a rebellion of his time. In an era that often confined entertainers within rigid gender and behavioral norms, Taylor's unapologetic flamboyance carved out a space for humor that was loud, emotional, and utterly sincere. Born Charles Elmer Taylor Jr., Rip Taylor became a fixture on television throughout the 1960s and 70s, appearing on shows like The Ed Sullivan Show and Hollywood Squares. His act, marked by self-deprecating wit and endless cascades of confetti, turned vulnerability into performance art. In a period when masculinity in entertainment was often tied to stoicism or dominance, Taylor's exaggerated humor challenged audiences to embrace joy and absurdity as forms of strength. His death from heart failure was natural, yet symbolically poignant. It seemed fitting that the man who embodied celebration should depart quietly, leaving behind a legacy of laughter that contrasted the often cynical world he performed in. The immediate aftermath of Taylor's passing brought tributes from across the entertainment industry. Comedians and actors remembered him as both a trailblazer and a gentle mentor. A performer who broke barriers for openly expressive, flamboyant humor long before it was widely accepted. His death served as a reminder of the transitional nature of comedy, bridging the vaudevillian showmanship of the mid-20th century with the self-aware, irony-driven humor of modern times. In death, Rip Taylor's legend only grew brighter. His career was revisited not just as comedic entertainment, but as cultural expression, a celebration of individuality and resilience in the face of conformity. His confetti became a symbol of unrestrained joy, a metaphor for the brief yet dazzling nature of life itself. Ultimately, Rip Taylor's passing highlights humanity's enduring need to laugh in the face of mortality. Through humor, we confront impermanence. Through remembrance, we keep the laughter alive. We immortalize such figures through televised tributes, biographical retrospectives, and the enduring echoes of their signature acts. Rip Taylor's confetti may have settled, but his spirit, vivid, uncontainable, and full of life, continues to sparkle in the memory of those he made smile. Bette Davis, one of Hollywood's most formidable and influential actresses, passed away on October 6, 1989, at the age of 81 in Neuilly-sur-Seine, France. Her death, caused by breast cancer and the complications that followed years of declining health, marked the end of a golden era in American cinema. Davis's passing was not sudden. She had battled cancer since the early 1980s, undergoing a mastectomy and multiple strokes, but it symbolized the resilience and defiance that defined both her life and her art. In a career that spanned over 50 years, Davis embodied strong, complex women who defied convention, much like she did in real life. Her death, therefore, reflected not tragedy, but a closing act in a life defined by endurance and unflinching honesty. During her lifetime, Davis fought against the restrictive studio system that often sought to control female stars. Her 1939 lawsuit against Warner Brothers, though unsuccessful, became a landmark moment for artists demanding creative independence. By the time of her passing, this same spirit of self-determination had become an industry standard. Her death thus symbolized a generational shift, the fading of old Hollywood glamour and the rise of modern actors who benefited from the freedoms she had helped establish. The immediate reaction to Davis's death was one of profound respect and nostalgia. Tributes poured in from across the world, celebrating her as a pioneer of strong female representation in film. She was remembered not only for her iconic performances in All About Eve, Jezebel, and Now Voyager, but also for her refusal to be diminished by age or gender expectations. In an industry often obsessed with youth and beauty, Davis proved that talent and determination could defy time itself. Her death amplified her legend, transforming her from a living icon into a timeless figure of artistic rebellion. She became the embodiment of perseverance, a reminder that greatness often comes through struggle. Bette Davis's passing invites reflection on humanity's enduring fascination with legacy. We immortalize figures like her through film retrospectives, museum tributes, and the continued reverence for her fearless artistry. Her eyes, immortalized in the song Bette Davis Eyes, symbolize more than beauty. They represent vision, willpower, and the eternal spark of creativity. In remembering her, we reaffirm our belief that art grants immortality, even when life fades. Scott Wilson, the veteran American actor best known for his roles in Cold Blood, The Great Gatsby, and The Walking Dead, passed away on October 6, 2018, at the age of 76. His death, caused by leukemia, was natural yet deeply felt within both the film and television communities. Wilson's passing marked the loss of an actor whose career reflected the transformation of Hollywood across half a century, from the morally complex cinema of the late 1960s to the character-driven storytelling of modern television. His quiet strength and authenticity made him a beloved figure among peers and fans alike. Wilson's career began at a pivotal moment in American film history. His breakout role as murderer Dick Hickok in Cold Blood, 1967, introduced audiences to the raw, psychological realism that defined the new Hollywood movement. His ability to humanize flawed characters mirrored the societal shifts of his time. America was questioning authority, morality, and the nature of justice. Decades later, as Hershel Greene in The Walking Dead, Wilson embodied the wisdom and compassion of a moral anchor in a world of chaos. His death, coming shortly after the announcement of his return to the series, struck fans as especially poignant, a reminder of mortality, both in fiction and reality. The immediate aftermath of his passing was filled with tributes from co-stars, filmmakers, and admirers. Many noted how Wilson's grounded performances gave emotional weight to even the darkest stories. His death amplified his legacy by underscoring the consistency of his artistry. He had been a bridge between generations of storytelling, proving that authenticity never goes out of style. Wilson's departure also reflected the cultural value placed on perseverance and humility in a celebrity-driven age. He never sought fame. Instead, he built a body of work that spoke for itself. In this, his passing reminded audiences of the enduring power of character actors, the unsung heroes of film who give depth and humanity to the stories we tell. In remembering Scott Wilson, we see how art can make mortality meaningful. Through the enduring reach of his films and television performances, his spirit continues to live on, quietly guiding audiences to confront life's moral complexities. In that way, Wilson achieved a rare form of immortality, the kind granted not by fame, but by truth. Diane, the Australian-born actress known for her versatility and striking presence on stage and screen, passed away on October 6, 2011, at the age of 78. Her death, attributed to a long illness, marked the quiet conclusion of a vibrant and often tumultuous life in the public eye. Dying of natural causes, her passing reflected the inevitable fading of an era defined by daring artistic experimentation and the breaking of societal conventions, values that Sento both embodied and challenged throughout her career. Sento rose to prominence during the 1950s and 1960s, a period of great transformation in both film and gender dynamics. Her Academy Award-nominated performance in Tom Jones, 1963, captured the spirit of cinematic innovation that characterized the decade. Yet, beyond her talent, she was often defined by her marriage to Sean Connery, the first cinematic James Bond. Their relationship, shadowed by the pressures of fame and allegations of domestic conflict, mirrored the broader cultural struggle of women in the mid-20th century, seeking independence and recognition beyond male-dominated narratives. Sento's later years were spent largely out of the Hollywood spotlight, dedicating herself to the arts in her native Queensland, where she founded the Karnak Playhouse, an open-air theater retreat reflecting her lifelong passion for creative freedom and spiritual expression. The immediate reaction to her death was one of subdued reverence, particularly within Australia's artistic community. Many viewed her as a symbol of resilience and reinvention, a woman who had navigated both the glamour and the volatility of celebrity with authenticity. Her passing reignited public reflection on the challenges faced by women in the entertainment industry, particularly those who, like Sento, sought to be remembered for their art rather than their associations. Diane Salento's death serves as a poignant reminder of the fleeting nature of fame and the enduring power of artistic legacy. Humanity often immortalizes such figures not through monuments, but through performance, storytelling, and remembrance. In revisiting her films and the creative spaces she built, we reaffirm our collective fascination with mortality and memory, the idea that art, once shared, continues to live long after its creator's final curtain call. Richard Farnsworth, the soft-spoken American actor and stuntman whose weathered grace brought authenticity to every role, died on October 6, 2000, at the age of 80. His death was the result of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, a tragic act that came after a long and painful battle with terminal cancer. While his passing was violent, it also reflected the quiet dignity and independence that had defined both his career and his generation, a generation shaped by endurance, stoicism, and a belief in facing hardship on one's own terms. Farnsworth's life was steeped in the rugged individualism of Hollywood's golden age. Beginning as a stuntman in classics like Gone with the Wind, 1939, and Red River, 1948, he worked for decades before gaining recognition as an actor in later life. His performances in The Gray Fox, 1982, and The Straight Story, 1999, showcased his understated brilliance, earning him 2 Academy Award nominations, the latter when he was nearly 80 years old. In The Straight Story, he played Alvin Straight, an elderly man journeying across the Midwest on a lawnmower to reconcile with his dying brother. The film's meditative tone, centered on dignity and mortality, eerily foreshadowed Farnsworth's own final chapter. His suicide shocked Hollywood and fans alike. Yet, those who knew him spoke of his pain and his unwavering composure in the face of illness. His death reflected a deeply human conflict between suffering and control, between decline and self-determination. In many ways, Farnsworth's decision to end his life on his own terms echoed the frontier spirit that had long defined his on-screen persona and the cultural ideals of his generation: courage, pride, and a quiet resistance to vulnerability. The immediate aftermath of his death brought a wave of tributes that celebrated not scandal, but integrity. Directors, actors, and audiences remembered him as a man who embodied sincerity both on and off screen. His passing deepened the emotional resonance of his final performances, particularly The Straight Story, which many now view as his farewell message to the world. Richard Farnsworth's story illuminates humanity's timeless struggle with mortality and dignity. We remember such figures through film, the modern art of immortality, where their expressions, voices, and values are preserved beyond death. In every frame of his work, Farnsworth reminds us that grace, even in the face of loss, remains one of life's purest legacies. Buck O'Neill, born John Jordan O'Neill Jr., passed at the age of 94 from heart failure and bone marrow cancer. His death marked the end of a remarkable life that transcended baseball and embodied the spirit of perseverance in the face of systemic injustice. O'Neill's death was natural, yet symbolically profound. It reflected both the challenges of racial inequality that defined much of the 20th century and the enduring values of hope, grace, and dignity that he carried throughout his long life. As a player and manager in the Negro Leagues, O'Neill faced the harsh reality of segregation. Despite being denied the chance to play in Major League Baseball during his prime, he became the first African-American coach in the MLB when he joined the Chicago Cubs in 1962. His experiences encapsulated an era when racial barriers were slowly beginning to crumble, and his story illustrated the perseverance required to bridge the gap between exclusion and inclusion. His passing occurred only months after he had famously delivered an emotional speech at the 2006 Baseball Hall of Fame induction ceremony, an event at which he was not, ironically, inducted himself. That moment highlighted the bittersweet intersection of recognition and injustice that characterized much of his career. The immediate reaction to O'Neill's death was one of widespread mourning and reflection. Players, fans, and historians alike recognized that they had lost not just a baseball legend, but a living connection to an era of American history too often overlooked. His legacy, however, only grew stronger after his passing. Posthumously, he became a symbol of sportsmanship, resilience, and historical preservation. The Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City, an institution he championed tirelessly, stands as a living testament to his lifelong mission of honoring those who played the game in the shadows of segregation. Buck O'Neill's death reminds us how mortality can amplify meaning. Through storytelling, museums, and documentaries, his spirit continues to inspire generations. Humanity immortalizes figures like O'Neill, not just for their achievements, but for the grace with which they confront injustice. His life and passing reaffirm that true greatness lies not in personal triumphs alone, but in lifting others toward the recognition they deserve.